Okay, hello, everybody. This is Irina Strunina, and this is our podcast, Diabetically Speaking with Smart Move 360. This is the place where we meet every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time and talk about life with diabetes. Usually, I invite experts like doctors, like nutritionists, like social workers to talk about this. And on the very last Thursday of the month, I'm inviting someone who is living with this diagnosis. So if you missed those episodes, please go to our YouTube channel, Smart Move 360, and check this. Our last episode was great. And today I have amazing guest that fortunately is also my neighbor. We live in the same city. We actually can meet in person, and we did. And today I am inviting Desiree. She is, let her introduce herself. Desiree, hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Um, my name is Desiree Doucet. I am just outside of the Atlanta, Georgia area and in the northern burbs. And I am a coach and I work mainly with people in midlife. And during midlife, we usually have a lot of major life shakeups or transitions. And so I help people, especially Gen X and elder millennials, who were not really given these tool sets to manage stress and to surf those big waves of life that can come crashing down on us. I help clients find the wisdom, the intuition, and the tools to help them make the next part of their life even better. So we don't have to live with all the beliefs and all the junk that came to us in our childhood and in early parts of life. And so that's what I do. I have a bunch of different modalities, and this was based on my own journey. When I hit midlife, pretty much everything in my life shifted, including my career. So yeah, that's what I love to do, and I just have such a passion for teaching people that there's another way.
Absolutely. Thank you. And this is so close to um, situations and life experiences of many of our group members, Diabetes 101 for beginners. Because when you are young, your body can manage a lot of stress, where your body can s- go through a lot of pressure and have you just sleep and next morning you wake up full of energy and you could go ahead and do this again. But somewhere at midlife, unfortunately, our bodies, if we don't take specific measures, if we don't pay attention to it, our bodies may actually say, hello, I cannot take it any longer. I need help or I'm giving up. And again, if we don't listen to those signals, if we don't pay attention to it, we do start experiencing different changes, such as diabetes is one of them, and sometimes it could be the different metabolic diseases that we can have, and heart diseases, and a lot of different um, things. You know, in Russian we have the proverb that is basically meaning the thinnest thread breaks first. So if we compare our bodies to one big, beautiful, I don't know, piece of material, and there is one thin thread that may break with the pressure, and the whole piece will start falling apart. So
Yes.
this is something that we need to remember, and I am so glad that you agreed to meet with me today because the conversation about it may help someone to recognize some signals that their body may be already giving them, already gave them, and they didn't notice it. And also, hopefully, you will help us to learn some tools how we can help ourselves to calm down and start making changes.
Thank you so much. I love the analogy of the thinnest thread and how I'm thinking of a beautiful tapestry and how that can come unraveled. And I love to sew. So I'm, very much I love like I'm in the textile arts. I have a lot of friends. I actually have a friend who's a weaver, and it's so important for all of those pieces to be together. And our health does start to come unraveled when we have decades of these unhealthy patterns and stress that we cannot control. And when we're living in a constant state of stress, we don't even know what relaxation feels like. I
Yes.
remember like it was probably my late 20s, early 30s, and I finally had the experience of feeling relaxed. And I was like, oh, this is what that feels like. And it was so foreign to me because I didn't grow up in a house where, I grew up in a house where my dad was like 7:30 on a Saturday morning. It was like, well, get up and start doing your chores. It was, but that's what he knew. But he also died in his 50s of a heart attack. And so, now as someone in midlife in her late 40s, I was talking to my sister about this last night. Like, we're coming of age where my dad was not able to manage those lifestyle factors and it took his life. And
Mhm.
so it's a reckoning for us of let's take care of our health and let's have a different outcome. And that's what I want people to walk away from with this is the awareness of what that can show up like if you've just got these family patterns of stress and we've got to constantly be on all the time. Let's start to pay attention to what the opposite feels like. Let's even invite that into our lives, and let's also stay present or stay open to the idea that we can have a different outcome if this is a family pattern. It doesn't mean that we're sentenced to a life of the same outcome as our ancestors.
Absolutely, yes. Well, so the podcast we are right now on is called Diabetically Speaking with Smart Move 360. This is the podcast that I started um, airing 2 years ago to help more people who maybe already been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or need to learn more because of the family history. And I am inviting experts like yourself to share your um, area of expertise so people will know how to recognize the signs, what they need to be aware of. And one of the things you are expert on managing the stress, managing the your emotions at the times when we are experiencing some very stressful situation. You said you are a grief expert, so very often people when they get this diagnosis it usually comes later in life. Of course, unfortunately, right now we have more and more uh, situations when younger people get diagnosed with this. But in either case, most often I hear that this diagnosis comes as a sudden diagnosis, unexpected. Maybe people had their family history, maybe they didn't, but for just because of our human nature, we think that we are different and this will, we'll just will not get that. Yes,
Mhm.
I will live with those people who have this diagnosis, but I will not get it.
Mhm.
And then they receive this information from the doctor and they fall into this different ocean of emotions. It could be anger, it could be disappointment, it could be uh, resistance, and they don't want to believe it, and then they, and very often it's a depression as a result of it. So, how do you think knowledge of how to manage the stress can help people to maybe avoid this, or if they found themselves in this, to help themselves to get out of there? Because you have to manage your emotions before you start doing anything. When you are
Yes.
upset, you do nothing. You just sit there in your upsetment and incapable of making good decisions and things. So
Yeah. You go into this cyclical thinking
exactly.
where you're not making any any changes or you're not making any progress. And I think one of the key things that I've learned in this journey of becoming a coach and studying grief is the more we suppress emotions, the bigger they grow. And so when we are having feelings about getting a very serious diagnosis like diabetes, there's a lot of feelings that come up with us. And sometimes it can be very uncomfortable because we don't have the tools to feel like we can safely feel those feelings and process them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so therapy is a great option for a lot of people. Um, I always suggest, like, if you don't have a therapist, it's a great place to start. Start working through those feelings, but also journaling and acknowledging, what is behind these emotions. So a lot of people they have grief when there's a whole like area of grief called the loss of a dream. I learned about this a couple of years ago and it was fascinating to me. So is there something where you're getting your jump to conclusions mat out and you're saying because I have this diagnosis I'll never be able to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there this right wrong thinking, this very black and white thinking that's coming up and you're saying because I have this diagnosis I'll never be able to, and then that can tie into the grief of a loss of a dream. So understanding how all these pieces work will help point you to what you need to do for your healing. So the grief expert that I studied with, David Kessler, talks about our pain is our path to our healing. So if you are having these emotions and the stress around it, try to step back and understand it. So view it from that, kind of like somebody gave me a metaphor of like turning on a TV and you're watching a TV show. You're not emotionally invested in it. Become curious, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm feeling really stressed. What am I stressed about? Not just my hair's on fire, I got to run around and scream about it. It's okay, well, what is stressing me out about this? Is it, oh my gosh, I have to learn a new way to live, or I have to figure out how to cook differently, or this is going to be a learning period and I don't feel like I have the margin for that in my life right now. What is your stress about? And then we can start to unpack and find ways to
Mm-hmm.
decrease that stress, to manage that stress. But if you don't even know what you're dealing with, we've got to start there, right? With identifying the emotion, identifying the source of the stress.
Yes, absolutely. I see a lot of comments in our Facebook group where people are saying that they learn that they have this diagnosis and they don't want to go blind like their aunt, or they don't want to lose a limb like one of their relatives or people who they know about. And 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 they are panicking. They don't know where to start. There's so much to learn. I don't know where to start. So, first of all, can we talk a little bit about the fact that when we are in this condition, we're really not capable to get results. So what is the relationships between this being all on on fire and getting results? What is there the relationships?
So, one of the most powerful tools that I use with my clients is this concept of mental fitness, and it's based on a book in the work of Shirzad Chamine. He wrote a book in 2012 called Positive Intelligence, and he has an entire program that he offers. And he's taught coaches on how to coach their clients in this method. And it's all about teaching us, these are very well researched neuroscience concepts. So there's two parts to our brain. Our left side of our brain is our survival brain, right? And that's the part of the brain that wants to keep us alive. And it's a great function, right? But when we're stressed, a lot of times we're living in that survival brain. And we have this very right wrong thinking. It's either right or it's wrong. The reason why that is because our brains are wired for predictability. They want to be able to make a snap judgment so that they can keep us alive in an emergency. The right side of our brain is really when we can relax and sink into that. That's where our wisdom, our creativity, and our intuition lives. That's where the creative problem solving is going to happen. That's where your curiosity is. Judgment, quick judgments, left side of the brain, survival brain. But finding the empathy and the compassion and the creative ways to solve problems is this right side of the brain. So when you have a serious diagnosis like this, you can feel it can trigger that left side to be like, I need to survive. I don't want these things to happen. Well, let's not focus on what we don't want because the brain does not understand the negative, right? So let's focus on what we do want. And then we can start to engage. There are ways that we can start to train our brain to engage in this and using both sides and engaging this right side. And that is where we can truly turn things around for someone is slowly developing these patterns. They're called neural pathways. So if we've been living in survival mode our whole life and we've been using these neural pathways on the left side of our brain, that's where our brain's used to going for the answer. So it's going to immediately, hey, let me check in because it's always kept me alive, like it's been doing its job. But what we can do is start to build those neural pathways on the right side of the brain so that instead of always going to the survival brain, we're checking in with the right side as well, right? And that's where things can really start to get traction and you can relax into, okay, let me have some empathy and compassion for myself. Let me try to creatively problem solve. And also, I want to underscore the importance of community in all of this. And your community on Facebook is incredible. People are in there helping other people come up to speed and learn about tactics to help manage this disease effectively. And it's just like let's not forget that that is an integral piece of all of this and managing stress and knowing that you're not the only person that's going through this because your survival brain will sit there and say, I'm the only person, I've got to figure this out by myself. But when you can pull back and say, I have this whole community that can help me figure this out. And there are people, I've always said in my path, the people that have helped me the most are the ones who have walked a similar path.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a full 160,000 people in that community who are showing up to help other people who have walked a similar path. Get in touch with those folks and get in that community and find the support that you need.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Desiree. I totally agree about the importance of the community. We see those posts
Mhm.
from people when they say how much it helped them to calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you think that you are by yourself, you may be not showing people, but that means that you're suppressing everything, and it's a direct path to to the depression there. But when you see that there are other people and they also experience your emotions similar that
Mhm.
you have, and similar to not only emotions but also just basic the numbers of their blood work and maybe not knowing what to do and not knowing of how this abbreviation
Mhm.
what it is about. So all of this is very very helpful for people. I have just when you was talking about this calm down and creative thing, all right, what do you think if this is a surprise question for you,
Okay.
uh
I'm
what
here for it.
What do you think about emotional eating? Because this is the problem that a lot of people, especially with diabetes, experiencing. We all learn from the early age to find peace in some comfort food. And most of the time, comfort food is not the one that is recommended to people with diabetes. And it's very starchy,
Mhm.
it may be very sweet. All this is not helping, especially when you you don't have much knowledge and you just got diagnosed, and people, instead of calming down and start making right choices and make good changes, they just not calm down, they kind of resort to their, tub of ice cream or bowl of cereal or bowl of pasta and do it kind of like, I don't care. This makes me feel good and I am going to do it because I am so stressed out right now. What do you think about this? What people can do to help themselves to avoid those episodes?
I think there's a couple things like that come up, like numbing with substances. So food is a way that some people have found that numbing comfort. The other thing is when we're stressed, that's what our body craves because
Mm-hmm.
it is we want things with a high calorie load when we're stressed because we're if you think about stress, you're living in the survival brain. What do you need for survival? Calories. Why? Because you're running from the tiger, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
makes perfect sense from a scientific standpoint. And a lot of times when I can understand, like I come from the logical, I spent 20 years in tech, right? So my brain works with the logical analytical. When I can understand something from a scientific perspective, I can take the blame off of, oh, I'm such a bad person. This shame and this guilt about how I'm behaving and be like, hey, this is my body and my brain feeling stress. We're in survival mode and you're trying to keep me safe. Let
Mm-hmm.
me find some ways to sink into what is the wise choice for me. And this happened to me yesterday. I have not been eating well and it's showing up in my body and I know what that feels like because I know how to eat healthy. I don't always do it. It's easy to get into the habit of convenience foods and comfort foods when
Mm-hmm.
we're stressed. And there's a lot of stress going on in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so give yourself some compassion. So I went to a food hall yesterday with somebody and we were grabbing lunch after doing some work and I was like, oh, all of the a lot so many of these choices are not good. And I was like, what can I make as a choice that feels better for me in this moment? I know that my body needs things that are healthy. And so I chose the blackened salmon with a little bit of rice and some vegetables. And I ate that and I felt much better about my choice and my body felt better. And so when you can pick up on what's coming up, I'm in my survival mode. My my body and my brain are craving high caloric foods. I'm used to also numbing with foods. And so some people numb with substances. Some people numb by being busy all the time. That's another thing that ties in with I'm busy, busy, busy. I'm stressed, stressed, stressed. I don't have time to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can sink back into what can I do? Is it the shrimp cocktail in the fridge, right? In the fridge section of the health food store that I can go and get. Like on Thursdays, there is a local supermarket. They have little half-pound French shrimp cocktails and $6 rotisserie chickens. Those are easy protein sources that are quick and budget friendly for me to
Mm-hmm.
say, let me go get a bagged salad, put that on top of it. Let me get a healthy salad dressing and then pay attention to how your body feels when you feed it really healthy nutrient dense foods versus this high caloric crap, right? I grew up on donuts and Eggo waffles for breakfast and I never understood why I would be tired an hour and a half later. And my mom was like, what's all this sugar you're eating? I'm like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I started to understand how nutrition, like what the nutrient, like the big building blocks of food, protein, fats, and carbs. I didn't understand this is a carb, this is a protein, this is this is a fat, and how to have actual balanced meals. And then I started eating that way. And I was like, whoa, this is life changing. I'm not tired all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I had never, it was just so, this is what life is, right? And if you don't ever experience anything differently, so give yourself, if you're living in that cycle of numbing with food, of eating, like step out of the shame and say, let me try something and commit to a time for it. So, through 30 days and learning and you might I had to learn a whole new way to cook. I'm
Yeah.
Cajun, so everything was rice and gravy all the time, rice and gravy. And I loved it. we didn't have vegetables growing up in my house because my older siblings trained my mom that we don't eat vegetables. And so she didn't
Uh-huh.
even bother cooking them by the time I came through.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't have things like steamed broccoli. I never had vegetables, but there's always a point in time where you can start making better decisions. And
Yes.
so play with it and start to really pay attention to how eating different foods affects how you feel. And then when you can make that connection, write it down because your brain's really good at lying to you. And so on the hard days, you can be like, I know that eating a well balanced meal will help me to feel better. It'll control my blood sugar. That impacts a ton of aspects of my health, and I'm taking care of myself, which is the most loving thing to do. I remember following these food bloggers a couple years ago, and they said the most loving thing you can do for someone is to cook them a healthy meal with
Mm-hmm.
love. And why are we not doing that for ourselves, right? It's
Yeah.
such a loving thing to do. Even if you're not cooking, even if you're getting a bag salad and some, shrimp cocktail or a rotisserie chicken from the health food store, it's still taking the time to prepare that for yourself.
Yes. Well, yes, and thank you for bringing up this nutritional aspect of it as well, because you're right. This is something that we don't think about on a regular basis. Unfortunately, diabetes is such diagnosis that you have to be mindful.
Mhm.
But then when you are paying attention for a long enough period of time, it's becoming your like habit, your way of
Yeah.
thinking, and it's not a burden anymore. It's like, when you go outside, you check the temperature. What is temperature outside? So you will not get a warm coat when it's hot outside, and you will not go in shorts if it is cold outside, right? So this is normal, but after experiencing a couple of those mistakes, you teach yourself to check the outside temperature, right? The
Mhm.
same thing, I believe, is with food, that you can train yourself to think about how it may affect the way how you feel after you ate, how productive you are after you ate, and sometimes this temporary like 15 minute spike of energy and happiness happens, but after that the crash happens. As we all know, it
Yes.
happens with everything, because body needs nutrients to work on. They cannot run only on this sugar molecules that we get, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, cool. This is something that I always am fascinated about, to learn how these emotions may help, like knowing about emotions, this knowledge may help people to manage their diagnosis. And unfortunately, you probably heard that too, when people are facing some health challenge, or maybe family relationships challenge, or maybe work relationships challenge, and you say deep breathing will help you,
Mhm.
or do some journaling, or go for a walk, and they say, are you crazy? Don't you understand? I have this happening, and you talking about deep breathing, like, right, yes, deep breathing will help me to get my blood sugar under control.
Mhm.
How do you talk when you with people when they give you this message?
Yeah, and I mean that's it's very woo-woo. Like if you just meditated, right? If you just sat on your meditation cushion for 30 minutes. And what I love about Shirzad's program and his research is we can shift even in the moment. And so I've like jokingly nicknamed it for me because I'd have people take the program and they're like, how is this different than meditation? And I was like, first of all, it gives you the framework to understand when you're in your survival brain and what might be coming up. Second, it gives you there's a skill that we practice in that program called self-command. So first is paying attention and understanding what's happening. The second is you have a choice to make a different choice in this moment. It's not, I have to pull out my meditation cushion, go sit and meditate for 30 minutes. It's okay, I'm driving down the road and there's a bridge out. How do I go around it? Do I make another decision? Right? So that's self-command. And then once we get, so we have the awareness and we have the choice. And then once we have the choice, we can say, oh, this is what's happening. I want to shift. Well, you ask yourself, do I want to shift? I might want to eat the jelly donut. But
Mhm.
no, like today, I don't really, I need to be productive and I don't want to have the sugar crash. It's not my birthday. It's, whatever. I'm going to engage in self-command and I'm going to shift. And
Mhm.
so one of the best ways, the ways that Shirzad teaches are called, it's through called PQ reps. And what that does is that shifts the movement from the left side of the brain to the right side of the brain. And all it is a 10-second paying attention to one sensation at a time. So if we use our physical sensations, so if you're in traffic and you see that bridge out sign and you start to get stressed and you feel that like I'm judging the situation and I'm angry, blah blah blah, I'm jumping to conclusions, I'm going to be late, and you start spiraling and living in the future, you can bring yourself back to the present moment. You can focus on feeling the steering wheel underneath your hands. You can
Mhm.
even rub two fingertips together with attention on feeling those fingertip ridges, right? You can slow your breath. And then you start to pay attention to how you feel. So do that for 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a couple minutes. I did a demonstration of these techniques. I had 7 minutes to do this presentation a couple weeks ago. Within 3 minutes, I led them through focusing on one sensation at a time, cycling through every 30 to 60 seconds, different sensations. You can focus on what you're hearing. You can focus on you're seeing. Like this morning I was walking the dogs. There was a whole commotion of birds going on in the trees in my backyard. So I started to pay attention to their bird song. And then I noticed the beautiful blue sky and the clouds. That stuff is around us all the time. We're about to enter into spring and there's so many things sprouting and blooming. Pay attention to those things because it's going to calm your nervous system. It brings you into that present moment. Those are things that you can do. So it's having that tactical mindfulness, the awareness of when that stress is bubbling up, the choice of what to shift and how to do it. So paying attention to those sensations. What sensation can I pay attention to now? That is the best way to calm yourself down in the moment, to ease that stress.
Perfect. I told you up front that I will be asking you about the tools and things that people can use to help themselves to calm down, and you already gave it to us, shared it with us without me asking, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, yes, this is something that really, really helpful I find for myself as well. And I also notice that when people start kind of like catching themselves and like,
Hmm.
I am going to go crazy right now, once they catch themselves on this thought, they can do something. They
Hmm.
could help themselves to eliminate it completely. And I notice in our Facebook group sometimes people saying, I just got this diagnosis and I cannot imagine how I am going to live. I am, say, Cajun, I am
Hmm.
Asian, I grew up in the South, or I came from the culture where pasta is the key, how I am going to live. And they go into this how I'm going to live, and they don't even realize that here they are at the location where they are, and there are options. It's not
Yes.
the only choice that they have to eat, and they can make some adjustments with yes, I do need to learn some more information about it. I need to see different recipes. But like today, even in my refrigerator, you maybe have an egg that will be healthier choice than
Hmm.
a piece of bread. You maybe have something else that will help you, um, compared to resort to your traditional bowl of ice cream. So this is something that important to recognize. Stay where you are and do
Mhm.
what you can at that moment. Yes, yesterday you had the different options. Yes, tomorrow there may be different options too, but today you have to make a choice that and you have the choice. Do I continue harming myself, or I start balancing my emotions, my body condition, and do something that will help me, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing is I invite people to meet this with curiosity. You're exploring a new way to live, right? And yes, you've been given a diagnosis, but it's also exploring a different way to live. So play with flavors, play with
Mm-hmm.
different types of food. So I discovered I don't necessarily like hard-boiled eggs for breakfast, but I
Mm-hmm.
love a jammy egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to make those. With the internet, you can learn anything these days. So I learned how to make jammy eggs, and I'll maybe sometimes I'll meal prep a couple days worth, and then, I play with different seasonings on top. So, like, sometimes it'll be a specific spice blend from my favorite spice company. Get into playing with spices and flavors, find out what you like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you become such a better cook than what, and you're going to save a lot of money than
Mm-hmm.
eating out, because it's like I would go to a steakhouse and it's like, oh, this is expensive. I could make this at home for half the cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd know what was in it. It wouldn't spike my blood sugar as much. And so it becomes an adventure of like, let me explore other spices that I may not, or other ways of cooking, or other ways of combining. You can turn this into a creative endeavor. It's all about the attitude that you bring to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can, but getting to that point really needs us to shift out of that survival brain, right, wrong, this is the way it's going to, catastrophizing, like in that stress bubble, sinking into, let me invoke my wisdom, my intuition. Let me find that part of me, that where my creativity lives, and then start to explore different ways of cooking. What do I really like, right?
Mm-hmm.
What makes me feel good? Chia pudding. Like, I have introduced so many people to chia pudding. That stuff is great. And then you can top it with, low glycemic fruit. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
great way to start your day with like a couple soft boiled eggs. Maybe you like hard boiled eggs with your favorite seasoning. You can mix it up with different sauces on top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so go on an exploration. You don't have to eat the same thing every day. You don't have to be limited. We live in this global world where we have spices from all around the world. We have an internet with tons of recipes on how to make, can you sub spaghetti squash for the pasta? And then maybe one day you're like, it is a special occasion and that pasta is going to be worth it, right? But if you have your blood sugar in control most of the time, chances are having one bowl of pasta every couple months is not going to take you completely off the rails like it used to, right?
Yes.
So it's all about learning this new way to live and rolling with the punches. That's what life is about. Figuring out how to surf those waves, how to become a better surfer, instead of just sitting there and being like, I'm pounded by the waves all the time and this is life and it's never going to change.
Yes.
You know what?
Absolutely.
Let's stand up and figure out how to use the surfboard, and figure out how we can have joy in this process.
Yes. Wow, great, great, great suggestions, great attitude, and wonderful conversation. And I'm so glad that you were able to meet with me today for this podcast, Desiree. This is wonderful. And I'm also very happy that you are nearby, so we could do something together and in person as well. I need to make a couple announcements for the
Okay.
group right now, and unfortunately we have to finish this podcast for today. But we definitely will see you again. I hope we will. I would love to. Hopefully you also okay with that. Anyways, I wanted to remind everyone that on Tuesdays on in our Facebook group we have our Telenurse Tuesday, where our registered nurses are coming to the group, and for 1 hour they sit in their office and answer the questions. It usually happens between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern time, but the questions you could post earlier in the day under the banner that you can see right now. It's called Telenurse Tuesday. There will be a picture of a nurse on call the day, and you could always ask your questions. Every other Wednesday, we meet with our support group. And these are meetings that happen also in Zoom, not in Facebook. We meet again at 7 p.m. Eastern. And for an hour, we have a chance to chat, to exchange recipes, to discover, well, ask these experts because often we have a dietitian or a life coach joining us, and they are happy to help and share tools and tricks and answer the questions. On Thursdays, of course, is our Diabetically Speaking with Smart Move 360 podcast, and you could see it in the Facebook, but you also could go to YouTube. It's a Smart Move 360 channel and see the our previous recordings and what we have shared recently. If you find it interesting, if you find it educational and useful for yourself, please share it with friends or family, whoever can benefit from this information that we are posting there. Another piece of information I wanted to share that every month in this year, myself and our registered dietitian, Kim Kyle, we are doing our Diabetes 101 for Caregivers crash course. This is something that we decided to have this 2 hours, and Kim is educating people on different aspects of diabetes, the theory, some practice, and um, caregivers often are lacking of information, so this is your chance to see this. And this is it for right now. I wanted to say that we had our Diabetic Healthcare Expo happened in February already, but every 2 months we are going to have the next one. So again, Smart Move 360 will have all the recordings, and you are welcome to share it, to go there, to see it yourself. And I hope this is something that you will find useful for yourself. With that, Desiree, I know you have to go. I also have to go. So thank you again very much for your time, your expertise, your suggestions, your ideas. This is, to me, very useful. I hope it's useful to other people as well.
Thank you. And I hope to see you soon in person, like in real
Ab-
life.
Absolutely. Well,
All
couple
right.
of weeks.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And yeah, let's talk about doing some stuff locally. I'm
All right.
totally interested. I
Perfect.
love the community that you've built, and you're out here doing really awesome work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Desiree. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good rest of your day, and see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.